Hey all, Michelle Raza here with Finding Yourself SATX Life Coaching, helping you find your best self since 2017. Please check out our website. We're at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. There in the shop section, if you like these videos, besides hitting the like button and subscribing on YouTube, you can also donate to fund the Finding Yourself Book Club. Also, if you're interested in life coaching, a lot of our digital products start at just $9.99. So check out the site whenever you get a chance. Today we're going to talk about Melody Beattie's Codependent No More. We've been on her chapter, Learn the Art of Acceptance. And originally when I went through this a few weeks ago, I kind of glossed over the 5 stages of grief. And so I've just kind of gone back a little slowly to talk in more detail about the 5 stages of grief. So a few videos ago, we had denial, talking about denial, which is the first stage, and then anger. Last time we talked about bargaining and depression, and then this time we're going to talk through the 5th and final stage, which is acceptance. And so the reason why Melody talks about this in a book about being codependent is basically that whenever you lose anything, you go through the 5 stages of grief. And so when you are a codependent, you have this idea, right? A lot of people have the idea that if I just love them enough, if I'm there for them enough, if I pick up the pieces enough, that things will change, or that the idea that their loved one will somehow change or be better. And so when you finally come to the realization that that's not going to happen, that you cannot change someone and that they themselves have to choose the change, it's a loss. It's a loss to understand that and to realize that you can't love someone enough to change them or to make them better. The choice and the actions have to come from within. They have to decide that they want to do better, and they have to take the steps necessary to make the changes. And that's very, very hard. And so you go through the 5 stages of grief once you get to the point where you make that realization. So I'm here on page 137 of her book, and I'm going to talk through acceptance. 5. Acceptance. This is it. After we have closed our eyes, kicked, screamed, negotiated, and finally felt the pain, we arrive at a state of acceptance. It is not a resigned and hopeless giving up, a sense of, what's the use, or I just can't fight it any longer, though we hear such statements too, wrote Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. They also indicate the beginning of the end of the struggle, but the latter are not indications of acceptance. Acceptance should not be mistaken for a happy stage. It is almost void of feelings. It is as if the pain had gone, the struggle is over. We are at peace with what is. We are free to stay, free to go on, free to make whatever decisions we need to make. We are free. We have accepted our loss, however minor or significant. It has become an acceptable part of our present circumstances. We are comfortable with it and our lives. We have adjusted and reorganized. Once more, we are comfortable with our present circumstances and ourselves. Not only are we comfortable with our circumstances and the changes we have endured, but we believe we have in some way benefited from our loss or change, even if we cannot fully understand how or why. We have faith that all is well, and we have grown from our experience. We deeply believe our present circumstances, every detail of them, are exactly as they ought to be for the moment. In spite of our fears, feelings, struggles, and confusion, we understand everything is okay, even if we lack insight. We accept what is. We settle down. We stop running, ducking, controlling, and hiding. And we know it is only from this point that we can go forward. This is how people accept things. Besides being called the grief process, counselor Esther Olson calls it the forgiveness process, the healing process. It is not particularly comfortable. In fact, it is awkward and sometimes painful. We may feel like we're falling apart. When the process begins, we usually feel shock and panic. As we go through the stages, we often feel confused, vulnerable, lonely, and isolated. A sense of loss of control is usually present, as is hope, which is sometimes unrealistic. We will probably go through this process. So I think at this point they're talking just about the general processes of grief, right? Not just acceptance, right? But all 5 of them. We will probably go through this process for anything that is a fact in our lives that we have not accepted. A codependent person or a chemically dependent person may be in many stages of the grief process for several losses, all during the same time. Denial, depression, bargaining, and anger may all come rushing in. We may not know what we're trying to accept. We may not even know we're struggling to accept a situation. We may simply feel like we've gone crazy. We haven't. Become familiar with this process. The entire process may take place in 30 seconds for a minor loss. It may last years or a lifetime when the loss is significant. Because this is a model, we may not go through the stages exactly as we have outlined them. We may travel back and forth, from anger to denial, from denial to bargaining, from bargaining back to denial. Regardless of the speed and route we travel through the stages, we must travel through them. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross says, "It is not only a normal process, it is a necessary process, and each stage is necessary. We must ward off the blows of life with denial until we are better prepared to deal with them. We must feel anger and blame until we have gotten them out of our system. We must try to negotiate, and we must cry. We don't necessarily have to let the stages dictate our behaviors, but each of us, for our well-being and ultimate acceptance, needs to spend individually appropriate time in each stage." So yeah, that's that. It ain't easy. Coming to acceptance means you have to feel depression. And for many of us, we are pushing that depression away constantly. And if you're watching this on your phone, right? The phone is a source of constant distraction. And it's really easy to push all of your feelings away with the phone. You're busy, you're busy, you're busy, you're busy, you're busy, you're busy. Sometimes you're actually not busy. You just don't want to feel what you would feel if you sat still. And I remember someone once told me that because I was always so busy. But I wasn't. I just didn't want to deal with the stuff that I had to deal with if I stopped being so busy. So maybe take a moment and sit with yourself and feel those things that you don't necessarily want to feel. And sometimes you don't even know what they are, right? Because you're so busy pushing them away and being a busybody and a busy bee that you don't even know what's bothering you in your life. You haven't taken the time to look, to understand yourself or anything around you. So to get to that final stage of acceptance, you have to be willing to walk through the other 4 stages. And that's not an easy path. But that's what friends are for, confiding in good friends who can help you. Finding an accountability partner, as I talk about on my site. And then, if needed, working with a therapist. If you have health insurance, I always recommend that. Finding a coach who can help you along your journey, right? So, thanks for hanging out with me today. Hard stuff, always hard stuff. Wish I could just talk about flowers and sunshine, but then it would be a different channel. So, happy 4th of July if y'all are in the United States. If you're not, have a great weekend. I hope it's not too hot where you're at. If you're in the southern hemisphere, then hope winter is treating you well. Y'all take care. We'll talk more next week. All right, bye-bye.